Rain lashes the weathered farmhouse in rural Nebraska, where Jake Larson, a 38-year-old farmer, sits alone at his kitchen table, the weight of despair as heavy as the storm outside. A bank letter glares up at him. Foreclosure notice, final warning. His family's land, his only anchor, slips closer to ruin after years of failing crops and mounting debt. The coffee in his mug has gone cold, his calloused hands still. When a roar tears through the night, not thunder, but the scream of metal plummeting. A red flash streaks past the window, followed by a bone-rattling boom. Jake's on his feet, grabbing his coat, flashlight, and a battered first aid kit, charging into the deluge. In his cornfield, a small plane lies shattered, flames licking its frame. Inside, a woman slumps, blood on her brow, a metal shard piercing her leg. "Hold on!" Jake yells, yanking the cockpit open, pulling her free as fire creeps closer. Under an oak, he dials 911, but help's delayed by the storm. Kneeling in mud, he binds her wound with his torn shirt, whispering, "Stay with me." A spark of hope flickers. Maybe he can save something tonight. If stories of courage stir you, subscribe for more tales that ignite the heart. Dawn breaks over the Nebraska plains, gray and heavy. The storm's rage reduced to a damp whisper across Jake Larson's struggling farm. The air smells of wet earth and charred metal, a reminder of last night's chaos when a plane crashed into his cornfield, changing everything. Inside the creaking farmhouse, Jake stands in the doorway of a cluttered spare room. Once his sister's, now a makeshift refuge filled with dusty books and faded curtains. On the narrow bed lies the woman he pulled from the wreckage, her face pale but alive, her leg wrapped in fresh bandages he changed at sunrise. Her flight suit, torn and blood-stained, hangs over a chair, and a silver necklace with EG etched on it rests on the nightstand, glinting like a question mark. Jake's hands, still raw from gripping that metal shard to save her, ache as he watches her stir. She opens her eyes, green and sharp despite the pain, and murmurs, "Where am I?" Her voice is hoarse but steady, carrying a trace of something, confidence maybe, or caution. "My farm, outside Lincoln," Jake replies, his Nebraska drawl soft but firm. "You crashed in my field. I'm Jake. You got a name?" She hesitates, just a beat too long, then says, "Emma." The word feels like half a truth, but Jake nods, offering a glass of water. "Drink slow," he says, studying her as she sips, her gaze darting to the window like she's mapping an escape. The farmhouse is quiet, save for the drip of a leaky faucet and the groan of old floorboards under Jake's boots. He's 38, worn by years of fighting to save land that's been in his family since his great-grandpa broke the sod. Last night's bank letter, foreclosure notice, sits like a stone in his gut, its threat sharper than the storm. Saving Emma gave him a fleeting purpose, but now, in the sober light of morning, reality creeps back. The cornfield's ruined patch will cost him, and his tractor's on its last gasp. Yet here's this stranger, alive because of him, stirring something he hasn't felt since his wife passed, a need to protect, to matter. Emma sets the glass down, wincing as she shifts. "You pulled me out," she says. Not a question, but a realization. "I owe you." Jake shrugs, his flannel shirt damp from last night's rain. "Just did what anyone would." But his eyes linger on her necklace, on the way her fingers brush it absently, like it's a tether to a life she's not sharing. "What happened up there?" he asks, nodding toward the ceiling, meaning the sky. Emma's face tightens. "Storm caught me, lost control." Her answer's too clipped, too practiced, and Jake's instincts, honed by years of reading weather and people, prickle. He leaves her to rest, stepping into the kitchen, where the bank letter waits, unopened bills stacked beside it like a jury. The farmhouse feels smaller today, its peeling paint and sagging porch a mirror of his own fraying hope. He brews coffee, the cheap kind that tastes like regret, and thinks of his wife, Ellie, gone 5 years now from cancer, that moved faster than his prayers. She'd loved this land, its stubborn soil. and he'd promised to keep it for her. Now it's slipping away, and this stranger's arrival feels like a cruel twist. Saving her cost him time and crops he couldn't afford to lose. Yet when he checks on Emma, finding her asleep, her face soft and unguarded, he can't resent her. She's a mystery, sure, but one that's breathing because he didn't hesitate. He notices a scrap of paper on the floor, fallen from her pocket last night, a scribbled string of numbers, maybe coordinates, maybe nothing. He tucks it into his jeans, not ready to confront whatever it means, not ready to admit he's curious about who she really is. By afternoon, Emma's awake again, stubborn enough to sit up despite Jake's protests. "I'm fine," she insists, though her grimace says otherwise. He brings her a plate of scrambled eggs and toast, the best he can manage with a fridge that's mostly mustard and beer. She eats slowly, studying the room. The cracked photo of Jake and Ellie at a county fair, the stack of Field and Stream magazines, the toolbox spilling wrenches. "You live alone?" she asks, her tone careful, like she's testing the water. "Yeah," Jake says, not meeting her eyes. "Long story." He doesn't mention Ellie or the foreclosure, doesn't want pity from a woman who might bolt once she's strong enough. But Emma's not pushing. She's watching, learning, her silence louder than questions. When she spots an old radio on the shelf, her fingers twitch, like she's itching to fix it. "Mind if I look at that?" she asks. Jake raises a brow but hands it over, and within minutes she's got it humming, static, giving way to a faint country tune. "Where'd you learn that?" he asks, half impressed, half suspicious. "Just a hobby," she says, too quick, and Jake knows she's holding back. The day stretches, heavy with unspoken truths. Jake works outside, hauling debris from the crash site, his back aching as he glances at the house. Emma's presence is a puzzle, her skills, her evasions, that necklace. He wonders if she's running from something, someone. The thought stirs a memory of Ellie, how she'd tease him for overthinking. "Trust your gut, Jake, but don't let it run the show." His gut says Emma's no ordinary pilot, but it also says she's not a threat, not yet. When he returns, muddy and spent, he finds her at the kitchen table, staring at his bills like they're a map. "Rough year?" she asks, gentle but direct. He bristles, then sighs. "Rough life." She nods, no judgment, and for a moment, they're just two people carrying too much. As night falls, Jake lights a lantern, the power's spotty, and checks her bandage. "You're tough," he says, almost a smile. Emma looks at him, really looks, and says, "So are you." The words hang, a fragile bridge between them, but the coordinates in his pocket feel heavier, a reminder that bridges can burn. The Nebraska sun climbs higher, painting Jake Larson's farm in shades of gold and dust, but the warmth does little to ease the knot in his chest. It's been 3 days since the plane crash tore through his cornfield, since he pulled Emma Grayson, though he only knows her as Emma, from the burning wreckage and patched her up under a storm-soaked oak. The memory of her blood on his hands, her whispered E.G. necklace glinting in the farmhouse lantern light, lingers like a question he's not sure he wants answered. Inside the spare room, Emma's stronger now, hobbling on a makeshift crutch Jake rigged from an old broom handle, her green eyes sharp despite the pain. She's taken to poking around, her curiosity a quiet invasion, fiddling with his broken irrigation timer, flipping through his dog-eared almanacs, even tightening a loose hinge on the kitchen door. Jake watches her, his calloused hands busy with chores, but his mind stuck on that scrap of paper he found in her pocket, the one with numbers that might be coordinates, still tucked in his jeans. The bank's foreclosure notice sits heavier each day, a countdown to losing the land his wife, Ellie, loved. And Emma's presence feels like both a lifeline and a riddle he's not ready to solve. Outside, the farm hums with the stubborn rhythm of survival, chickens clucking, wind rattling the sagging barn. But Jake's world feels off-kilter. He's 38, weathered by grief and debt, and saving Emma stirred something in him. A flicker of purpose he thought died with Ellie 5 years ago. But purpose doesn't pay bills, and the crash's damage, scorched crops, a busted fence, has tightened the noose around his future. Emma's no ordinary drifter, he knows that much. The way she rewired his radio in minutes, her offhand comment about engine thrust yesterday, her quick deflection when he asked where she's from, it all screams she's more than a freelance pilot. He catches her now, standing at the porch's edge, scanning the horizon like she's waiting for something to drop from the sky. "You planning to fly out of here soon?" he asks, half joking, leaning on a shovel. Emma turns, her smile tight. "Not yet. Still grounded." Her tone's light, but her fingers graze that EG necklace, and Jake's gut twists. Trust is a seed he's not sure he can plant. By noon, they're working side by side, an uneasy rhythm forming. Jake shows her how to mend a split-rail fence, her hands clumsy but quick to learn, her crutch propped against a post. She asks about the farm, why he keeps corn when prices are tanking, how long the tractor's been coughing a smoke. He answers in gruff bursts, not used to explaining himself, but her questions aren't pushy, just steady, like she's mapping him the way she mapped that radio. "You ever think about switching crops?" she says, wiping sweat from her brow. "Maybe berries for local markets?" Jake snorts, but the idea sticks, a pebble in his boot. They laugh when a chicken bolts free, chasing it through the mud. And for a moment, he forgets the foreclosure, forgets the coordinates burning a hole in his pocket. But the ease shatters at dusk, when Jake spots a shadow near the barn, a figure in dark clothes, too still to be passing through. His pulse spikes, hand reaching for the shotgun propped by the shed. "Stay here," he tells Emma, voice low. But her face pales, eyes wide like she knows who's out there. Jake creeps through the tall grass, shotgun steady, the Nebraska night thick with cricket hums and menace. "Show yourself," he calls, voice hard. The figure steps into the moonlight. Mid-30s, clean-cut, city shoes caked in mud. "Easy, friend," the man says, hands up, smile slick. "Looking for a woman, calls herself Emma. Heard she crashed nearby." Jake's grip tightens, the name EG flashing in his mind. "Why's that your business?" he asks, stepping closer. The man's smile doesn't waver. "She's important to some powerful folks. I'm just the messenger." Jake fires a warning shot into the dirt, dust exploding at the man's feet. "Message delivered. Get off my land." The stranger backs away, vanishing into the dark. But his words linger like smoke. Jake returns to the porch, where Emma waits, her crutch clutched like a weapon. "Who was that?" he asks, voice rough. She stares at the ground, jaw tight. "Nobody I want to see." Her silence screams secrets, and Jake feels the fragile bridge between them creak. Part of him wants to push, part wants to protect her, and both feel like falling. Back inside, the farmhouse wraps them in uneasy quiet. Jake bolts the door, shotgun by his side, and hands Emma a mug of tea, the steam curling like a question. "You running from something?" he asks, softer now, sitting across from her. Her eyes meet his, raw and searching, but she only says, "I was trying to find something." The answer's a dodge, but there's truth in her voice, a crack in the armor she wears. He thinks of Ellie, how she'd read people like weather, and wonders what she'd make of Emma. Brave, broken, or both. The coordinates in his pocket feel like a live wire, but he doesn't mention them, not yet. Instead, he changes her bandage, his fingers careful, their silence heavy but not cold. "You're safe here," he says, almost to himself, and she nods, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. As night deepens, Jake lies awake, the bank letter's shadow looming, the stranger's visit a warning, and Emma's necklace a puzzle. He's no hero, just a farmer fighting to hold on. But something about her makes him want to fight harder, for the land, for answers, for whatever's growing in the space between them. The Nebraska dusk settles over Jake Larson's farm like a heavy quilt, the air thick with the scent of earth and uncertainty. It's been a week since Emma Grayson, or just Emma as she claims, crashed her plane into his cornfield, upending his world of foreclosure threats and fading hope. The memory of pulling her from the wreckage, her blood soaking his hands, and that EG necklace glinting under his farmhouse's dim lights, feels both distant and razor-sharp. Jake, 38 and worn by years of loss, has spent these days balancing chores with watching Emma heal, her presence a mix of comfort and suspicion. She's stronger now, moving with a crutch he carved, her quick mind tinkering with his tools and asking questions about crops that hit too close to his buried dreams. Last night's stranger at the barn, a city slicker hunting Emma, left Jake's nerves raw, his shotgun's warning shot still echoing in his mind. The scrap of paper with coordinates, tucked in his pocket since he found it in her flight suit, burns heavier each day, matched by the bank's foreclosure letter mocking him from the kitchen table. Tonight, as stars prick the sky, Jake knows he can't dodge the truth any longer. Emma's hiding something big, and it's time to find out what. Inside the farmhouse, the kitchen glows under a single bulb, casting shadows on peeling wallpaper and a sink full of unwashed mugs. Jake and Emma sit across from each other, the silence taut after a day of uneasy teamwork, fixing a barn roof, laughing over a stuck shovel, her sharp ideas about switching to niche crops lingering in his head. She's wearing one of his old flannels, too big but oddly right, her EG necklace catching the light as she sips water. Jake's hands, rough from hauling hay, fidget with a wrench, his patience fraying. He's caught her quirks, how she recalibrated his weather radio without a manual, how she sketched a better irrigation plan on a napkin, how her eyes flit to the door when a car passes. The stranger's words, "She's important to powerful folks," gnaw at him, and that article he found in an old magazine about a missing pilot with Emma's face won't let go. "We gotta talk," he says, voice low, setting the wrench down. Emma stiffens, her crutch leaning against the table like a silent ally. "About what?" she asks, too calm, her green eyes guarded. Jake pulls the coordinates from his pocket, the paper creased and soft from his grip, and slides it across the table. "Found this in your stuff the night you crashed. Numbers like these aren't random. Neither was that guy sniffing around my barn." Emma's fingers twitch, but she doesn't touch the paper, her jaw tight. He leans forward, his Nebraska drawl steady but firm. "You fixed my radio like it was a toy, threw out crop ideas like you've run a business, and you dodge every question about where you're from. I'm not dumb, Emma. Who are you really?" The room feels smaller, the air charged like before a storm. She looks at the paper, then at him, and for the first time, her armor cracks. Her shoulders slump, her eyes soften, raw with something like shame. "I didn't mean to lie," she says, voice barely above a whisper. "I just needed to be someone else for a while." Jake's heart thuds, torn between anger and a strange urge to listen. "Start talking," he says, not unkindly, but unyielding. Emma takes a breath, her hands folding around the necklace, as if it anchors her. "My name's Emma Grayson," she says, the words heavy, like they cost her. "My father's Edward Grayson, head of Grayson Aerospace. Planes, jets, billion-dollar contracts. That's my world. Or was." Jake blinks, the name slamming into him like a rogue wind. Grayson Aerospace isn't just a company. It's the one tied to the bank that crushed his loan last year, the rejection letter that sealed his farm's fate. His jaw clenches, but he stays quiet, letting her continue. "I'm a test pilot," she says. 5 years ago, a prototype I flew went down. Bad tech, not my fault. But it grounded me. Physically, mentally. I lost pieces of myself. This crash wasn't an accident. I was running from my dad, his empire, the person I'd become. Her voice breaks, eyes distant. I flew into that storm because I didn't care what happened next. Jake's anger stirs, but so does something else. Recognition of a pain he knows, the kind that makes you reckless. He stands, pacing to the window, the fields dark beyond. "Grayson," he says, bitter. "Your family's name was on the letter that killed my chance to save this place, and you've been here, eating my eggs, fixing my junk, knowing I'm drowning?" Emma flinches, but meets his gaze. "I didn't know about your loan, Jake." I swear, I stayed because you saw me, not my name. For once, I wasn't a headline. Her honesty cuts, and Jake feels the sting of betrayal mix with memories of Ellie, who'd always said to look deeper. He pulls out the magazine article, its faded photo unmistakable. This you? Missing pilot? Big news? Emma nods, slow. I didn't want to be found, not yet. Before he can respond, headlights slice the night, multiple sets, engines rumbling, dust swirling on the dirt road. Emma freezes, her face pale. They're here, she whispers, and Jake knows she means more than strangers now. Her past has come knocking. The kitchen feels like a trap, the bulb flickering as Jake grabs his shotgun from the corner, instincts kicking in. Who's they? He demands, voice sharp. Emma stands, unsteady, without her crutch, fear in her eyes but resolve too. My father's people, he doesn't let go easy. Outside, black SUVs grind to a halt, doors opening, silhouettes moving with purpose. Jake's pulse races, the coordinates, the article, her confession swirling into one truth. Emma's not just a pilot, she's a storm of her own, and it's breaking over his land. He faces her, shotgun lowered, but ready. You brought this here, he says, not accusing, just stating. I didn't mean to, she replies, voice cracking. But I'll face it, Jake. Just don't hate me yet. Her plea hangs, fragile, as boots crunch closer. And Jake realizes whatever comes next, the quiet days of trust and laughter are gone, for now. The Nebraska night wraps Jake Larson's farmhouse in a suffocating stillness, broken only by the growl of engines and the glare of headlights slicing through the kitchen window. Moments ago, Emma Grayson, revealed as the billionaire heiress of Grayson Aerospace, bared her truth to Jake, her words unraveling the fragile trust built over a week of shared chores and quiet laughs. Her EG necklace, the coordinates in her pocket, the stranger at the barn, all pieces of a life she'd fled, now crashing back like the plane that brought her to Jake's cornfield. Jake, 38 and battered by grief and debt, stands with his shotgun lowered, the sting of betrayal sharp as he processes her confession. Her family's company, Grayson, crushed his loan, pushing his farm toward foreclosure. The kitchen, once a haven of eggs and banter, feels like a battlefield, the bank letter on the table a silent accuser. Outside, black SUVs circle, their doors opening, and Emma's face pales. She knows who's come. My father's people, she'd said, fear and resolve warring in her eyes. Jake's heart pounds, torn between the woman who woke something in him and the chaos she's brought, as boots crunch closer, promising to tear her away. The front door creaks under a sharp knock, and Jake tightens his grip on the shotgun, instincts honed by years of protecting what's his. Emma stands, her crutch forgotten, her borrowed flannel loose on her frame, but her posture defiant. Let me handle this, she says, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Before Jake can argue, the door swings open and a tall man strides in. Silver hair, tailored suit, eyes cold as steel. Edward Grayson, Emma's father, fills the room with an authority that makes the walls feel smaller. Behind him, men in dark jackets wait, their radios crackling, their stares fixed on Emma. Time to go, Emma, Edward says, his tone clipped, like she's a wayward asset, not a daughter. Jake steps forward, shotgun at his side, his Nebraska drawl hard. She's not your property, mister. Edward's gaze flicks to him, dismissive, like Jake's just dirt on his shoe. Mr. Larson, you've done a service keeping her safe. You'll be compensated. But this is family business. Emma's jaw tightens, and Jake feels her glance, a silent plea not to escalate, but his blood's up. Nobody walks into his home and calls the shots. Emma moves between them, her limp barely slowing her, her voice cutting through the tension. Dad, I'm not a kid you can drag back to your world. I left for a reason. Edward's eyes narrow, unyielding. You left a company, a legacy, in chaos. You're not throwing it away to play farmhand. The word stings, and Jake feels it too. A jab at his life, his land, the only thing he's got left since Ellie died. He wants to snap back, to tell this suit his farm's worth more than any jet, but Emma's hand grazes his arm, grounding him. "Jake didn't just save me," she says, softer to her father. "He reminded me who I could be." Edward scoffs, but his men shift closer, ready to move. Jake's grip on the shotgun tightens, his mind flashing to the foreclosure, to Ellie's smile, to the way Emma laughed chasing chickens. "She stays if she wants," he says, voice low, final. Edward's smile is thin, humorless. "You're out of your depth, farmer." The standoff holds, the kitchen a pressure cooker of pride and pain. Emma turns to Jake, her green eyes raw, glistening. "I have to go," she whispers, "or they'll tear this place apart." Jake's chest tightens. She's choosing his farm over herself, and it hurts worse than her lie. "You don't owe me," he says, but she shakes her head, pressing a folded paper into his palm, her touch lingering. "Don't give up on this land, Jake, please." Her voice cracks, and before he can stop her, she limps toward Edward, the men closing ranks around her. "Emma," Jake calls, but she doesn't look back, her silhouette swallowed by the SUV's glare. Edward pauses at the door, tossing a card on the table. Grayson Aerospace, gold embossed. "For your troubles," he says. Then he's gone. The engines roar, dust swirling, and the night falls silent, leaving Jake alone, the paper crumpled in his fist, his home emptier than ever. Jake sinks into a chair, the shotgun clattering to the floor, his breath ragged. He opens the paper. A single line in Emma's handwriting. "Believe in seeds." It's a gut punch, her faith in his fight when he's got none left. The Grayson card mocks him, a symbol of the empire that broke his dreams, and now took her too. He thinks of Ellie, how she'd urge him to see past anger, but all he feels is betrayal. Emma knew her family's role in his ruin and stayed silent. He storms to the mantel, grabbing a photo of him and Ellie at harvest, and hurls it against the wall, glass shattering like his trust. The coordinates from her pocket, still in his jeans, feel like a taunt, but he can't touch them. Not now. Outside, the cornfield lies scarred, the crash site a wound that mirrors his own. He pours coffee, cold and bitter, and sits until dawn, replaying Emma's laugh, her secrets, her final look, gratitude, guilt, goodbye. The farm's quiet, but it's a silence that screams, and Jake swears he's done with saviors who leave him broken. As morning breaks, gray and merciless, Jake finds something on the table. A USB drive, small, unmarked, left by Emma. He almost tosses it, but curiosity wins. A faint echo of her voice urging him on. His laptop whirs, slow and ancient, and the drive opens. Spreadsheets, crop plans, a vision for his farm she'd built in secret. There's a video too, Emma's face filling the screen, recorded days ago. "Jake," she says, eyes soft, "I'm sorry for lying. You gave me a place to land, not just from the crash, but from myself. This is my way of saying thank you." The plans are meticulous. Berries, local markets, a path to save his land. Jake's throat burns, anger wrestling with awe. She'd seen his fight when he couldn't, but she's gone, and the Grayson name still stings. He shuts the laptop, the paper in his hand. Believe in seeds, a challenge he's not sure he can meet, as the farm waits, silent, for what he'll do next. The Nebraska dawn creeps over Jake Larson's farm, pale and unforgiving, as if the land itself mourns the emptiness left by Emma Grayson's departure. Days have passed since black SUVs tore her away. Her father's cold command, "Time to go," still ringing in Jake's ears, matched by the sting of her confession. She's the heiress of Grayson Aerospace, the empire that crushed his loan and pushed his farm toward foreclosure. The kitchen, once warmed by their laughter over eggs and broken tools, now feels hollow. The "Believe in seeds" note she pressed into his hand a bittersweet weight. Jake, 38 and scarred by loss, sits among the ruins of trust, her EG necklace gone with her, the USB of crop plans untouched on the table, the bank's foreclosure letter a relentless shadow. The crash site in his cornfield, where he saved her life, mocks him, a reminder of how hope can burn as fast as fuel. Outside, the farm falters. Crops wilt. The barn sags, and whispers of trouble follow. Authorities poke around, citing harboring a missing person, and buyers back out, spooked by rumors. Jake's alone again, as he was after Ellie's death. But Emma's words, her plans, her faith in him refuse to fade, planting a seed he's afraid to nurture. The world keeps turning, cruelly indifferent. Jake drags himself through chores, his hands moving but his heart stuck, feeding chickens, patching fences, staring at the tractor he can't afford to fix. The USB sits like a dare, its promise of salvation tainted by the Grayson name. He'd smashed a mug yesterday, rage spilling when another bill arrived, stamped red with final. Neighbors, once quick with a wave, now dodge his gaze, wary of the patrol cars that lingered last week. The investigation's dropped. No charges, but the damage is done. Deliveries stall, his co-op deal's dead, and the land feels like a grave. Jake stands in the cornfield, the crash scar blackened underfoot, and wonders if Ellie, gone 5 years, would have told him to quit. He thinks of Emma's video, her apology flickering on his laptop. You gave me a place to land. He'd shut it off, too raw, but her voice loops in his mind, stubborn as the wind rattling his barn. By dusk, he's back in the kitchen, staring at the note. Believe in seeds, when something shifts, a crack in his despair, urging him to open the USB to see what she saw in this broken place. He boots the laptop, its hum a grudging lifeline, and plugs in the drive. Spreadsheets bloom, crop rotations, berry yields, local market projections. Emma's work, meticulous and alive, mapping a way out of ruin. There's more. Supplier contacts, cost breakdowns, even a sketch of a greenhouse labeled Jake's Future. His throat tightens, anger tangling with awe. She'd built this while dodging her past, believing in his farm when he couldn't. The video's there too, and this time, he lets it play. Emma's face fills the screen, tired but earnest. I lied about who I was, Jake, but not about what I felt here. This land's worth fighting for. So are you. Her words hit like rain on parched soil, and Jake feels something stir. Hope. Fragile but fierce. He pulls out her note, rereading it, and notices a plain envelope on the porch, slipped under a rock overnight. Inside, a revised plan. Cleaner, sharper, with a sticky note in her handwriting. Seeds grow in ashes. Keep planting. It's Emma, reaching across the distance, and Jake's resolve hardens. He's not done yet. Morning brings a spark of defiance. Jake grabs his phone, an old model scratched from fieldwork, and steps into the cornfield, the dawn sky wide and clear. He films, voice rough but steady. I'm Jake Larson, a farmer outside Lincoln. This land's been my family's for generations, and it's dying. I've lost my wife, my crops, damn near everything. But someone showed me it's not over. I'm asking for help, not for me, but for what this place can be. If you believe in honest work, in growing food that means something, join me. He posts it to a crowdfunding site, expecting nothing, and heads to the barn, hauling tools with a fire he hasn't felt in years. By noon, his phone pings. 100 shares, then 1,000. Strangers comment, "Keep fighting, Jake." My grandpa was a farmer. Count me in. Donations trickle, then flood. $50 here, $200 there. Enough to fix the tractor, buy seeds. A local diner pledges to buy his greens. Jake stares, disbelieving, as Nebraska wakes to his call. The farm hums anew, not with machines, but with people. By week's end, volunteers arrive. High school kids with eager hands, a retired mechanic offering to tune his equipment, a single mom who heard his story on the radio. They clear the crash site, till rows, share coffee from thermoses. Jake works beside them, his flannel soaked, his grief lighter with each seed planted. A girl, maybe 16, hands him a seedling, shy. "Someone sent this. Said it's for you." The note attached reads, "From Emma's greenhouse." Jake's breath catches. Emma's still out there, still believing. Online, his video hits 10,000 shares. A hashtag blooming. Ag can save Jake's farm. A co-op calls, offering a new deal. A school wants to tour. The foreclosure feels less certain, the land less lost. Jake finds the EG necklace in his drawer, where he'd tossed it in anger, and slips it into his pocket. A talisman of what might still grow. Night falls, and Jake sits on the porch, the stars bright over fields stirring with life. The USB's plans are taped to the kitchen wall, a map he's following, not for Emma's sake, but for his own. He thinks of Ellie, how she'd love this. Strangers uniting, dirt under nails, hope in the air. The envelope's sticky note lies beside her photo, its words a quiet mantra. Seeds grow in ashes. Jake's not naive. The bank's still circling, and Emma's world, her father's shadow, might return. But he's not the man who gave up anymore. He's planting, fighting, believing, because someone saw his worth when he couldn't. As crickets sing, he looks at the horizon, wondering where Emma is, hoping she's found her own seeds to sow, knowing her spark lit his fire. And that's enough for now. The Nebraska sun rises golden over Jake Larson's farm, now transformed into Hope Haven Farm, a vibrant testament to resilience a year after Emma Grayson's plane crash changed everything. The fields, once scarred by fire and failure, burst with rows of berries, kale, and heirloom carrots, their colors a quiet rebellion against the foreclosure notice that nearly broke Jake. A new greenhouse hums with life, its glass catching the dawn, while a small wooden classroom buzzes with kids learning to plant seeds. Jake, 38 and weathered but standing taller, surveys the land. His flannel stained with honest dirt, the EG necklace in his pocket, a reminder of the woman who sparked this revival. The bank's threat is gone. Crowdfunding, new contracts, and a co-op deal pulled the farm from the brink. Thanks to a viral video Jake posted in desperation, inspired by Emma's note, "Believe in seeds." Volunteers, neighbors, and strangers turned hope into harvest, and today's grand opening draws dozens, farmers, students, families, who see in these acres a promise kept. Jake's grief for Ellie lingers, but her memory smiles in every bloom, joined by Emma's unseen hand. Her USB plans now reality, her absence a wound that's healing with the land. The crowd gathers under a wooden arch, its sign reading, Hope Haven Farm, in bold carved letters, a name Jake chose to honor the chance he nearly lost. Trestle tables hold baskets of fresh produce, pies from a local baker, and jars of homemade jam, while kids chase each other, their laughter mingling with guitar strums from a volunteer band. Jake steps onto a low stage, his boots scuffing the planks, his throat tight as he grips a microphone. "This land was my family's for a century," he says, voice steady but thick. "It held my wife's dreams, my failures, and for a while, nothing else. Then a stranger crashed here, literally, and showed me broken ground can grow again." The crowd chuckles, then quiets as he continues. "She believed in this place when I didn't. You all did too." His eyes scan faces, teens who weeded rows, a mechanic who fixed his tractor, a widow who donated $10 and a prayer. He doesn't say Emma's name, not yet, but her presence hums in the air like the breeze through the corn. As applause ripples, Jake's gaze catches a figure at the crowd's edge, a woman in a simple sundress, a straw hat shading her face. His heart skips, knowing before he sees clearly, it's Emma. She steps forward, her limp gone, her green eyes bright but nervous, no longer the heiress hiding or the pilot running. The crowd parts, sensing something big, and Jake descends the stage, drawn to her like gravity. "You came back," he says, voice low, the necklace heavy in his pocket. Emma smiles, softer than before. "I had to. This is home." She's left Grayson Aerospace, she tells him later. Her resignation, a quiet choice for freedom over empire. On stage, she speaks, voice clear. I lived for a name I didn't choose, chasing skies that left me empty. Jake gave me ground to stand on, roots to grow. The crowd's silent, then roars, some wiping tears, as she looks at Jake. You saved me first, she says, but this farm saved us both. Jake takes her hand, their fingers fitting like puzzle pieces, and the applause feels like a blessing. Hope Haven thrives as months unfold, a beacon for Lincoln's community. Raised beds overflow with greens, drawing chefs from Omaha and families seeking fresh food. The classroom hosts workshops. Veterans learn soil science. Teens plant for credits. Retirees share stories over compost. Jake and Emma work as partners, their days filled with sweat and purpose, their nights with talks under stars. She designs solar trellises, teaches kids aerodynamics with kites. He builds benches, mends fences. His grief for Ellie now a strength, not a chain. One evening, Jake leads Emma to a hidden corner of the farm. A pergola he crafted, wildflowers curling around its posts, a carved bench beneath. He pulls out the EG necklace, kept safe all this time. This brought you to me, he says, voice rough. But I want you to stay for us. He opens a wooden box, a ring inside, etched with a tiny seed. Emma, will you build this life with me, season by season? Her eyes shine, and she laughs, a sound like rain after drought. Yes, Jake, always. They kiss, the farm alive around them, a vow rooted deep. Years later, Hope Haven is a legend, its fields a patchwork of dreams, kids' gardens, a co-op market, a shelter plot for the hungry. Jake and Emma, now married, move through it all, their hands calloused, their love fierce. The lessons linger. Broken things, land, hearts, lives, can mend with faith and work. Jake learned to trust beyond betrayal, Emma to choose her own path, and together they showed a community that seeds sown in pain can yield joy. The pergola stands, vines thick, a spot where they sit, her head on his shoulder, watching fireflies. You didn't crash, Jake whispers. You landed right where we needed you. Emma smiles, her ring catching moonlight. And you grew me home. Their story teaches that love and purpose bloom in unexpected places, that courage turns ashes into harvests, and that even the hardest ground holds miracles when you dare to plant.